Welcome to the Out of Dry Ground podcast. I'm your host, Josh Forbes. Thank you so much for being here, especially if it's your first time joining us. If somebody shared this with you, I believe that it means two things. It means that you're committed to thriving wherever you find yourself and that you value being resourced with the tools to do so. And if you're watching this and someone comes to mind who you know would definitely be encouraged by this, simply just hit pause and go ahead and share this with them. I heard somewhere that if you don't do something within 5 seconds of a call to action, chances increase that you're actually not going to take that particular action seriously. I promise. I will be right here. So let's jump in. I have 2 questions for you, especially as we're here in the summer season. How many of you plan on traveling at some point during the year? I suspect that it's probably going to be a lot of you, whether it's close to your house or whether it's on a long vacation, hopefully on a tropical island somewhere, or maybe even across the ocean. I suspect that you are going to be doing some traveling. Maybe if it's a family reunion. I know I've went to my share of those over the years. But let me ask you another question. How many of you actually enjoy being delayed on your way to or from that trip? Well, hey, I hinted at this on Thursday, but I have a story for you. So I mentioned last week that I was going on a mission trip with my son, who was helping me record this podcast, and it was such a beautiful experience. We went to Santiago, Chile. So right now, at the time of this recording, it's starting to become summer. And so going to the southern hemisphere, the seasons are actually the opposite. So it was late fall, getting ready to become winter. And I'm telling you, the Andes Mountains, they were so beautiful, so picturesque. The city was sprawling. It was a vertical city. You saw apartment buildings, dozens of stories up into the sky. And I'm telling you, the food was delicious. The hospitality, amazing. The different places that we actually got to serve and make a difference in the local communities. It was truly something to be remembered. But that wasn't the highlight of the trip. Actually, the highlight of the trip was actually what it took for us to get back into the United States. And I don't know why this is. Maybe if you've been on a few mission trips yourself, if you're watching this, then maybe you've had your share of travel debacles. Well, this one was probably one of my most interesting. And this is how it goes. We get to the airport. It's a Sunday evening, and what's pretty much par for the course as far as international travel, at least to Santiago, is that most trips, they leave at night and they make it to their international destination in the morning. So whether you're coming from the States to Santiago, it's going to be a late night trip, and then you arrive about 5 or 6 in the morning. So our team, we get to the airport, we check in, we're ready for our trip, we've said our goodbyes, we've carried Santiago in our heart, and we're ready to go home. And so we're sitting there at the gate, and we're waiting. And 8 o'clock rolls around, and we get a notification that our flight has been delayed. But it's only a half an hour. It's really not that bad. It's like, oh, we still can make our connection. It's no big deal. Well, then 8:30 turns to 8:45. Sure. No big deal. Which turns into 9:15. Which then turns into 9:45, which then turns into 10:15. And so now myself and my 14 other companions, we all sense that maybe this plane isn't getting off the ground tonight. And so they announce that the trip has been canceled. Now, these big planes, they carry a few hundred people in them. And so now everybody is up at the ticket counter. They're trying to figure out what was going on with the plane. They're trying to get all the details. But more importantly, they're just trying to figure out a way to get home. And so I was one of those ones. I have to be a good trip leader. I have to make sure that we stay on top of it. And so what I do, I try to beat the line. I go back down the ramp that takes us back through customs so I can re-enter the country, so that I can talk to a Delta representative, so that I can figure out a way to get my team home. And so I find this room, and there's some stanchions that are set up, and it's zig, zag, zig, and then you actually get to talk to somebody. And so I've just entered the room. There's probably maybe 25 or 30 people in front of me, and that's if I'm being real generous. And so what I wanted to do to hedge my bet was, I was like, well, maybe if I call the 800 number and I get them on the phone and I can get this thing sorted out, then maybe I won't have to stand in this line all night. Now, mind you, it's past 11 o'clock at night. It's almost midnight, and I'm just getting into a line to sort out this travel situation that I'm in. And so I'm holding the phone, I'm standing in line, and the line doesn't seem like it's moving anywhere. And literally, from the point of entry into the room to the first zig of 3 zags, it took me an hour. Just standing in line with a 40-pound backpack and the phone, waiting to hear from somebody on the other line. It actually took me an hour before anybody from Delta actually spoke to me. Like, this is crazy. I don't think I've ever stood in line that long, maybe other than going to a theme park. But this was just getting unbearably long. It actually took me 3 hours of holding a 40-pound backpack, of talking to somebody on the phone before I talked to the first customer service representative available. You can probably imagine that I'd be frustrated. You probably would imagine that I'm tired. And not only is it me standing in line, but I have somebody from my trip who's bilingual who can help me translate from English to Spanish and vice versa. And they're sitting there with me in the line, and they were such a good sport. So now I'm standing in front of a person, and they're eager to help, and they're friendly, and they're hospitable, and they start going to work, but then they hit a snag. And they say, Mr. Forbes, I can't help you. The way that your trip is booked, it's booked as a group. I can't break you up into different itineraries. You're going to have to talk to my boss, which was right next to him. So, all right, I don't have a problem with that. I'll wait till his boss is done helping the person that she was helping. And then I end up standing in front of her. And again, she's friendly, she's polite, she's hospitable, and she's looking at her computer. The wheels were turning in my mind about what could she possibly be looking at. It's just that easy. Take us 15 people and find us the next available flight, and we'll be out of your way. Well, come to find out, the flights from Santiago to the United States are pretty popular flights. And from the time that we were going to board on Sunday night, there was not an available trip that could accommodate 15 of us until that next Saturday. So going directly to the United States, that was off the table. So we figured it out. All right, she says, we're going to have to break your group into 2 groups, a group of 9 and a group of 6. But you guys are going to go pretty much the same path. You're both going to fly separate flights to Buenos Aires, Argentina. And I'm like, wait a minute. No, that is further east and a little bit further south than where we currently were. We want to go home. We want to go north. We want to go to the United States. But she said that's the only way to ensure that you guys can get there relatively together. So we take our itineraries, divvy them up amongst our teams, give them their passports back, and we get ready to go to our respective check-in lines. And the group of 6, they struggled for a few hours because the people at the ticket counter couldn't seem to pull up their reservation when it was actually a quick fix. And so they all end up getting their boarding passes. They all end up making it to their gate by the skin of their teeth, and they're on their flight to Buenos Aires. I wish I could say it was as easy for the group of 9 that I was leading. Instead, we go to the ticket counter, we try to drop off our bags, and they say, well, we can't find you in the system. You're going to have to go around the corner and talk to somebody at the big desk. So now I feel like I'm getting a little bit more frustrated. All we want to do is go home. So we go to the big desk and we talk to somebody and say, well, Delta, they didn't enter your information correctly. And so we'll pick up the phone and we'll call them on the other side of the airport. But nobody picks up the phone. So they say, we're going to go and we'll just go find them ourselves. No problem. We'll be right back. Well, that turned to hours. It's now 8 or 9 in the morning. I've been standing at that counter or in that room for 7 hours. And all we have is an itinerary, and we're being told that our information isn't in the system. So what are we going to do? We wait. That's all we can do. And so our team, they were good sports. They had great attitudes, and between joking and sleeping, I think they made out okay. And so I kept going back to the counter every 30 minutes, and to no avail, I got the same story. She's working on it. Be patient. You'll be fine. And at this point, I'm up more than 24 hours. I'm sleep deprived. I'm bothered. I'm tired. I'm frustrated. So we decided that we're going to take the food vouchers that they so graciously gave us, and we're going to go get some lunch. And so we go to the restaurant in the main terminal, and I'm falling asleep even before the food is getting there. So we end up eating our food and going back to where we were sitting, and someone from our team comes to us and says, it's a miracle. They were able to get us a flight for 3 o'clock in the afternoon to Buenos Aires. So we're so happy. We get our boarding passes. We go through security. We hop on our flight, and we're going home. And so we fly to Buenos Aires. So now both parts of the team, all 15 of us, are there in Argentina. We're excited. We go back through customs. We enter the country. We get our boarding passes. We go through international security. We're headed to our gate, and we're good to go. By the time we get to our gate, the other team was boarding their plane, and they were on their way back to the States. Yes. at least half of us is getting home sooner than later. And so we wait for this next plane, and we wait, and then finally we start boarding. Thank God. And so all of my team, they get in line, and they're able to just show their boarding passes and go on the trip. But for me, for some reason, I don't know what it is, they pulled me to the side and said, well, we need you to take off your shoes. We need to test your hands. We need to swipe for maybe gunpowder, explosive materials. They had to check my backpack, check my laptops. So sure enough, minor inconvenience. And then I was able to get on the plane. And it was great. Had all the movies, great air conditioning, pillows if you needed it. But I was tired. So I just went to sleep. And if you've flown on a plane, you know that sleep is kind of hit or miss. So we end up flying to Houston. We land in Houston, no problems. We're slightly delayed. I don't know how we slowed down in the air, but we did. But when it came to going back through customs, we bypassed the line. Everything was smooth until we turned the corner and we got to TSA. That line was literally like a mile and a half long. Like, great. We have 40 minutes. And this line, just like the one back in Santiago, didn't seem to be moving very fast. Actually, I'm lying. It actually moved a lot faster than the one in Santiago, but there were so many people in this line that it really didn't matter how fast it was moving because we were under the gun. We had another plane to catch just to get us home. And so our group, we ended up finding our way together in the security line. But then when it came to going through each of the respective scanning machines, our team was broken up. Boarding closes in 3 minutes. We still have to hop on a tram. Then we have to run a couple hundred yards in order to make it to our gate. And so 4 of us of the remaining 9 that didn't make it into hadn't made it into the States yet, we're there. We're at the gate. We're pleading, please don't close the door. Please, our team is coming. They're right behind us. And they said, either you get on or you stay. If you stay, we can't guarantee that all 9 of you are going to make it on the same flight. So luckily for me, my co-leader, he was with the group of 5 that was trailing behind us 2 or 3 minutes. And I was leading a group of 4. So we board the plane, we make it to Memphis, we get them home safe. And then the other team, they ended up catching the next flight. They make it home, and we're all home safe. Quite a story, right? And I don't know what it is, but it seems that when I travel, I just have so many opportunities of having disruptions, delays, and disappointments. But there's actually a story in the Bible that actually talks a little bit about that. I don't know if you've read it or not, but the Apostle Paul, he's been arrested and he's headed to Rome, and he's on quite the journey. And so I just want to break it down for you real quick. So Paul and his ministry companion Luke, they hop on a ship. Again, mind you, Paul is a prisoner. And as the journey continues, the weather, it just keeps growing worse. You can't make this stuff up. And so what Paul does, he warns the soldier in charge of the prisoners that this trip is going to be a disaster. God's let him know it's not going to end well. But he doesn't listen to Paul, and instead he listens to the captain and the owner of the ship because they're the experts. They know best. So a storm called a nor'easter, it hits them head on, and they're stuck in this storm in open waters for 2 weeks. And it's apparent that they're going to be shipwrecked. It's not a matter of if, it's simply a matter of when. And everybody's in despair. And the soldier and the crew, they're trying to figure out what to do with all the prisoners, what to do with all the cargo. But Paul, hearing from God, he ensures that no one's going to die. No lives will be lost if everybody stays together, being focused on the same destination and not go their own separate ways. The ship does eventually run aground on an island called Malta, and everyone made it to shore, one way or the other. And here's how it kind of breaks down. My team's trip to Santiago coming home, and the Apostle Paul's trip to Rome. It starts with a God-given destination. In Paul's case, it's Rome. In our case, it's Memphis, Tennessee. Then we're both met with disappointment. In Paul's case, it was a storm. In my case, it was a canceled flight. Then there was a redirection. In Paul's case, it was an island called Malta. In our case, it was Buenos Aires, Argentina. And then there is another disappointment. In Paul's case, after he got on the island called Malta, he actually got bit by a snake. He gets bit by a snake, of all things. And in our case, our disappointment was because of the long TSA line. Again, it wasn't our fault that everybody got in the line. It wasn't Paul's fault that a snake bit him. And then eventually we get to our destination. But I come to realize disappointments, they're only disappointments if you allow them to be. If we struggle with disappointment fatigue, it could be that we struggle with control and we struggle with only our expectations being met. On the mission field, one of my pastors, he actually taught us as a group to not go into any trip with high expectations or low expectations. Just go in with no expectations. Then it will be hard for you to be disappointed. And now we know those positive Pollies and those negative Nancys. The ones that are hyper optimistic and the ones that are doomsday negative. The ones that say that everything is going to go perfectly in every way possible, or the people that will say that everything that can go wrong is going to go wrong. For the positive Pollies, if something doesn't go just right for them, she's going to lose her mind. And if things actually go right for Nancy, in her mind, it's just a fluke. And she's waiting for the other shoe to drop. When you think about it, that's no way to live. We're supposed to take each day as it's given to us. Good weather or bad, doesn't matter. If it's sunny, great. The plants are going to benefit from the light. If it's rainy, great. The plants are going to benefit from the water. If it's hot and sunny with no rain in sight, great. I'm glad I have the means to water my lawn. If it's rainy, great. I get to save some money from not watering my lawn. If my flight is delayed or canceled, great. My airline will reroute me. If it's on time, great. We can proceed with our scheduled travel plans. In Acts, Paul wasn't upset that things didn't go according to his timetable. He actually learned how to be content. In Acts, Paul wasn't upset that things didn't go according to his timetable. He actually learned how to be content. If we're struggling with disappointment, and I'm not talking about righteous disappointment or an occasional disappointment, I'm talking about this whole mindset of everything has to go your way or it has to fit in your box. This is your cue to lean in. Everything is not about you, your ideals, your preferences, or your neat little box. It's actually about what God wants to develop in you, to get out of you, and to get into someone else. The Apostle Paul, he says it like this in Philippians chapter 4, verses 12 and 13. I know what it is to be in need. I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. I can do this through him who gives me strength. It's so funny that the last part of that verse is usually in most people's social media bios. I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. That's not for a team competing for the NBA championship. It's not for an athlete training for the Olympics. It's not even about you going to college and coming out on the other side. It's about taking life as it comes, the good or the bad, realizing what's in your control and what's not, and then learning how to be content. Remember that formula I was just talking about? Destination, disappointment, redirection, disappointment, destination. What if we did this? What if we just eliminated disappointment from that equation? And then it's just a God-given destination, the occasional redirection, and then we arrive at our God-given destination. The key is eliminating chronic disappointment. And when we do that, it actually frees us and it saves us from all the stress, which fuels a long list of health problems. So I hope this helps you today. And I want you to remember, we're all on the same journey. We're all figuring this out together. And I'm not going to say that you're going to walk away from this podcast episode and you're not going to be disappointed in something. But what I do hope is that you can take Paul's story, you can take our travel story, and you can think about even some of the inconveniences that you're navigating here in your life or even on your travel journeys. And just remember, take every experience for what it is. There are going to be some cancellations. Spoiler alert, there is going to be some delays. That's okay. It's about the journey. And so, like Paul and his companions on the boat, all of us, we're going to make it to shore. We're going to make it to our destination, one way or the other. So thanks for tuning in. It means a lot to me that you would join me in this conversation. It would mean even more if you went ahead and liked, shared, subscribed, and turn on your notifications so you won't miss any upcoming content. God bless you, and we'll see you here next time on Out of Dry Ground.